You've been a staple here.
Yes.
Yes, please. At Opera Omaha for a long time.
I have.
Yeah. But you conduct almost everything.
Anything they'll pay me for. You didn't hear that, did you? Yes.
Nope.
I do only high art.
But
oh no!
Already broke something. Uh-oh.
You are a true conductor.
Causing more problems than...
Why don't we get you another chair?
And maybe that one can be
Yes, retired.
flagged.
what did Jose Luis say yesterday? Anything can happen in opera?
Yes. Let's talk about that. So...
Anything can happen in opera. We just heard that yesterday. We interviewed the conductor who's here for our masterworks in a couple weeks, and he also conducts opera. And he was saying that that's one of the places he learned the most flexibility was conducting opera, because anything can happen.
And does.
Hi everyone, welcome to OSA Backstage. I'm Dani Meyer, this is Sauce Boss, that's Braveheart behind me, and on today's episode, Serena and I talk to the magnificent Gary Thor Wedow. He's conducting the orchestra in Opera Omaha's production of Rossini's The Barber of Seville. And we went into this conversation expecting to talk about opera, and we do, but we also ended up talking about phenomenal teachers, and about how when you have the right person who refuses to not let you see what you're capable of, how it can change the course of your entire life. You will also hear me accidentally call Beauchamp. Sorry in advance. Beaumarchais is the playwright for the Barber of Seville trilogy. You will also hear me accidentally butcher the third play in that series, which is The Guilty Mother, not whatever I tried to pull out of my memory. In any case, this was a joy. It was a real joy, and Gary is wonderful. And I hope that if you have ever been curious about opera, that you will take the plunge with this Rossini, because you deserve to be infected with really good music. You'll understand what I mean in a minute. You're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Enjoy. Sometimes it's planned, sometimes it's not.
Well, I tell the enemy. I tell my colleagues, the singers and the orchestra, never trust a conductor, and I feel you must never trust anyone in opera, because they might do something that is actually better. They might be inspired in the moment and go faster or slower. They might forget to come in. So you have to be always incredibly ready and willing to accommodate and be ready for that momentary inspiration, or maybe that momentary, the door won't open. And so you just have to keep on going. I think I have sung the entire solo roles of Messiah in performance with singers who say, oh yes, I know Messiah very well. And then you hire them, and then they realize that there are 3 arias they've never sung before. So you're in performance, conducting along, and I know that. And they look at you like you're crazy. You're the conductor, why are you singing? Well, I'm singing because you should be singing now. So it's a wonderful, in the moment kind of experience.
You sound like my dad when he was teaching me how to drive. It's like, trust absolutely no one else on the road.
No one else. Always in readiness.
We should have done this from go, but Maestro, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Gary Thor Wedow. I was born in LaPorte, Indiana, which is on the same latitude as Omaha.
Okay.
So I feel this magnetic pull to Omaha.
And clearly the Midwest, because you are simultaneously here and doing performances of Cinderella
Yes.
with the Lyric Opera of Kansas City, which is I'm assuming which is where you're going when you're done with us today, because one Rossini opera is not enough.
Never enough.
I think he would appreciate that.
Oh, he would love it, especially if he were getting a cut of the profits.
Yeah, yeah. Is being born in LaPorte, is that the reason why you chose Indiana IU for your bachelor's degree?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's very pivotal and primal to my being in opera. I mean, I sent my applications to three other schools, Northwestern, Oberlin, and somewhere else. But Indiana University did a very wise thing. They have a summer program for high schoolers and come to 2 weeks, study at Indiana University with master teachers. And I went and I was hooked. I loved the campus. I loved the teachers. I met dear friends that are still friends to today. So they got me when I was young. I was planning on going to school to be a high school music teacher. I thought opera was Gilbert and Sullivan.
It's not Gilbert and Sullivan.
It's not. And there's a lot of Rossini and Donizetti and Mozart in Gilbert and Sullivan. But so I went to this summer music camp for 2 summers, and there was no choice. They got me. Does
that mean that you went to IU as a piano major, but
Yes.
were you already thinking about opera?
No.
Okay, so when did you first hear, you said you thought opera was Gilbert and Sullivan, so when did you first hear your first opera? Was that while you were at school?
At the summer camp, which it sounds like we were all in cabins. We were all in the dormitories, which was pretty cool for a little farm kid. And the first opera I ever saw was The Rake's Progress. And I thought, I know. You just did it here, right?
You did.
Yes.
You did. You picked a nice, easy one.
Yes, but I was hooked. I mean, the text, the story, the music. I was like, if this is opera, let me in. The second opera, the same summer I saw, was in the big outdoor arena. It was Boito's Mephistopheles. So it was like, wow, okay, I'm here.
Oh my God. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so when did you think, no longer piano, I'm going into opera? And how did you choose conducting? Because you got your master's at NEC. No.
I got my master's at NEC in collaborative piano. I look like an old man, but I'm a very young conductor.
Okay.
And conducting chose me. None of this was my choice. I confess, none of this was my choice. This all chose me. At Indiana, I was a piano major. I studied with George Boulette, a big virtuoso, Liszt virtuoso. Although he knew every kind of music, he could sit down and play Bach, Haydn. He gave me Haydn sonatas to play, and Bach. Yet he would sit down and, play Liszt. Okay, this has nothing to do with me, but everything to do with me. I was having my piano lesson one day and the phone rang. And I learned later it was the New York Philharmonic. And George, who was 6'2" and built like a football player, he said, yes, many times. Yes, one of my favorite pieces. Yes, of course. Tomorrow, of course. Yes, click. Gary, I have to cancel our lesson. That was the New York Phil. Andre Watts has canceled their opening concert. They've asked me if I would play the Liszt Totentanz, and I told them yes, of course. I lied. I said it was a piece I'd played many times. So, would you please, could we cancel our lesson, and would you please go to the library and get me a copy of the Liszt Totentanz so I can learn it? So I went to the library and got the music, and then I thought, well, it's my lesson time. I just sat in the hallway and listened to him practice. And then an hour later, he came out. What are you doing here? I said, well, I was listening to you. He said, well, you could do me another favor. I'm going to the restroom now, but when I come back, could you listen to me play it by memory? And I said, sure. So I want to make sure I don't make any mistakes.
I'm sorry. So in a matter of hours.
An hour. And it's a probably 20-minute piece.
All right.
Yes,
I'll
Dani.
put a pin in that. Yep. Okay. All right. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to play it from memory, and you're going to check my notes.
Yes.
Continue.
Well, he played it from memory, and I asked the question that you're
thinking, which is, how in the sweet hell did you do this? Yeah.
Yes. He said, well, I've heard it before. I've played almost everything else that Liszt has written, and I have a photographic and auditory memory, and
then it just happens.
It just happens. So I persisted in trying to play the piano for him, but a singer that I ate lunch with, that I'd met in the summer program, one day said, you are a pianist. And I said, yes. She said, I have to have a pianist at my voice lesson, or my voice teacher will kick me out of her studio. And the voice teacher was his legendary voice teacher, Margaret Harshaw, who'd been a Wagnerian soprano at the Met for years, and was kind of, pardon me, Margaret, but you were kind of a dragon. She was a wonderful person and a great teacher, but she told it like it was.
She transformed into the actual dragon from Wagner's Ring Cycle.
Exactly.
Great. Okay.
Exactly, if you were doing it right. Now this is phenomenal. She had studied with Anna Schoenrené, who had studied with Pauline Viardot, who was the daughter of Manuel Garcia, I'm getting to it, who was the first count in Rossini's Barber of Seville. Isn't that amazing? A direct line.
It's like 6 steps from Kevin Bacon, except
Yes.
it's 6 steps from the original Rossini. Okay.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So I had never played a voice lesson before, but I had grown up playing, my father saying, play this by Hoagy Carmichael, play this. I played in church, I played in school for the high school musicals, everything. So I thought, how different can it be? And it wasn't, the composers were different. It wasn't Hoagy Carmichael or Cole Porter. It was Fauré and Schubert, and I loved it. And that day, Margaret Harshaw said, come back anytime you have time free and sit and play for me. And the singer was doing some Spanish songs, so I brought them to George. Jorge Boletti was Cuban. He loved them. He said, bring your singer. We'll work on them together. He coached her on the Spanish, and he came to the recital. And he came backstage afterwards, 6'2", this big man. He took me and shook me, and Bam said, I left the ground. Sorry.
No, I love that so much. I love when teachers have that much conviction. You just need, I feel so bad for people who've never done an art of any kind where they have a private teacher for whom they trust and they love, because that connection is the most, you can't find that anywhere else. It's like having an additional parent who just sees the best in you and has found your thing. And if you are just not stupid enough to look away from it, you will have found your thing.
Well, he found it. He said, why don't you play the piano like that when you played for me?
Wait a second. So he Nadia Boulanger'd you?
He Nadia.
He's like, why be a second-rate regular pianist when you could be a first-rate collaborative pianist? Okay.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And the penny dropped. It was like, I'm so not interested sitting in a room alone. You understand this, right? Yes. You playing Haydn sonatas, which I love. Haydn is one of my favorite composers. But I love working with people. And he saw that immediately. And from that moment on, he helped me in that direction. He planted the seed of my becoming a conductor, because if you can collaborate with one person, you can collaborate with many. So I don't think I should tell you this. Please don't tell anybody else.
It's a good thing this is a private medium.
Yes, I'm so glad we're not recording this. I never, even though I've taught conducting several times, I have never, other than introduction to conducting, I've never actually gotten a degree in conducting. I started out as a collaborative pianist, then I became a repetiteur at the Santa Fe Opera, and at different places. And
could you explain what a repetiteur does?
A repetiteur repeats. They sit in they are the orchestra until you meet the orchestra. And so in the staging rehearsals, in the music rehearsals, you take the place of the orchestra. And a good repetiteur, and I had I had these good teachers who said, don't play from the piano reduction, play from the orchestra score. Put the orchestra score. Even if you eventually play from the piano reduction, learn to play from the orchestra score so you learn the score.
That is some Liszt nonsense, right? There's this great story about Grieg showing up with his piano concerto, the full orchestra score, and Liszt reading it down with the piano part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm not Liszt.
But it's skill.
But no matter how long it takes, and sometimes it takes an hour to get through one page. I'm sure the music you conduct would take an hour to maybe get through one page if you conduct a lot of contemporary music.
Certainly, yes, several hours for me with my piano skills, the way they are. I'm a flute player.
Oh, well, there you are.
So, yes,
Yeah.
if sometimes I do run through parts on the flute, on my instrument.
There you are.
But if only I could be as proficient on piano as to reduce a whole opera, yes, that would be very useful.
For me, sometimes it's bar by bar.
Mm-hmm.
And I, as I said, I will conduct anything. And I have sometimes pushed myself to do contemporary pieces that are out of my comfort zone. You feel very uncomfortable out of your comfort zone, but it's such a wonderful feeling then once you get through it.
So that is your approach to learning operas, learning, new work scores, is to reduce it on the piano and really get that sound in your mind in that way?
Yeah. And then, of course, I was so lucky. Right from the beginning, I was hired by opera companies, and I learned conducting, assisting maestros. I would be their assistant in the room as we went through the music rehearsals. No, that's the 16th note. No, we have to blend here. No, now's your solo. And of course, you assist good maestros. Not that there are many, but there are some bad maestros out there, and you learn from them too. And I was so lucky in that I had wonderful maestros to learn from, and I'm so grateful to them. And I had generous maestros. Tom Dunn, who was the maestro at the Handel and Haydn Society, right out of New England Conservatory. I got the job as assistant conductor and librarian at the Handel and Haydn Society. Again, I was so stupid and naive. I thought the librarian passed out the music and collected it. I didn't realize they spent hours marking the parts.
But what an education!
What an education!
Especially with that, not that there's not that level of detail in a Rossini opera or a more modern opera, but I see what Susanna has to do for our concertmaster.
Yeah.
And it's the level of bar by bar phrasing and shaping, and every single note is held in like specific regard. And so having to do that part by part, I bet your hand, well, you have piano hands and wrists, so I bet they didn't wear out quite as fast, but I bet you learned a lot from that.
I learned so much. And Dani, this was in the 70s. And then the Handel and Haydn Society, now it is an early instrument orchestra, but then they use modern instruments. Now, I'm going to say again something insulting maybe to some people, but then particularly orchestra players had been Mahlerized. They would see a quarter note, and a quarter note is a quarter note is a quarter note. No matter where it is in the bar, no matter what the harmony is underneath it, it's a quarter note. And through the early music movement, we've learned that, especially in early music, composers wrote for the moment. They didn't write for posterity. They wrote for the people that were there. The only music they played was modern music. They all agreed on the quote-unquote rules, the conventions. So they knew that this was a cadence, so that was a strong note. This was a weak note. So there was a diminuendo. The composer didn't need to write a diminuendo. Mahler's scores are littered with a little faster, a little slower, accent.
Reams of German that most of us can't read at all.
Oh, I'm sure you can.
I've learned because we had a conductor, David Efron, at school. I love David Efron, and he we did Mahler 7 with him at IU. I also went to IU, and
Go Big Red.
Football, yeah. But yes, the rest of it, Go Big Red. He handed out this glossary of terms the first day of Mahler 7. You are expected to understand what this means.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I feel early music should have, if you're playing something by Handel, your part should look like a part out of a Mahler symphony. Sforzandos, diminuendos, crescendos, and staccatos. And so Tom Dunn in the Handel and Haydn Society, because he was conducting an orchestra that had been educated in this quarter note is a quarter note is a quarter note, he spent hours defining the shapes, the musical shapes, because this early music is pre-French Revolutionary. No two notes are equal. They all have a hierarchy. It's a kind of medieval construct. You know, you have the kings, the downbeats, the big notes, and then you have the serfs, the little notes who are hoping for a little space in the bar, a little crumb from the table. And Tom taught me all about that. And the thing I love about Rossini is Rossini, who grew up adoring Mozart and Haydn and Handel and Bach. He was one of the major supporters of the first complete edition of the works of Bach. Rossini realized he could not be Mozart. It crushed him. He wanted to continue Mozart. And he thought, I can't, because I'm not Mozart. I'm not enlightened enough. And so he rejected Mozart. He rejected the simplicity of Mozart. He, in a way, rejected, and this is the criticism that was thrown at Rossini all during his lifetime, and unfortunately, almost until the present day. One of the things I love to quote is, and so many people said it, but George Bernard Shaw said it probably most recently. Let's go to the Rossini concert, but we won't stay. We'll leave before we start enjoying it. Because they felt it was unenlightened. The music was too visceral, too primal. And there's a wonderful review from the 19th century, contemporary to Rossini, saying that the critic resisted Rossini and resented Rossini. And he went to the performance and he looked around him, and it was like a fever contagion that spread through the audience, and people were fainting and being carried out in stretchers. And he said, this is horrible. This is a virus, and it must be stopped. Rossini must be stopped. Yes.
Just loving the idea that enjoyable opera is somehow the antithesis of what opera should be.
Yes.
So years ago we did the Jean Francais octet on a chamber concert, and it was written to accompany the Schubert octet, and the Vienna Philharmonic players who were playing it, they got the parts. And Francais was known for music for pleasure. That was his thing. It's the 70s in France. Like, I am writing music that brings you joy, that you actually enjoy listening to. Doesn't have to be up here. You just have to feel it.
Feel it.
Right. But then the players got the parts, and I'm like, well, this is hard. He said, I said it would be enjoyable. I didn't say it wouldn't be hard. And that's how I kind of feel about Rossini. You're talking about this as if it's some sort of or rather people were talking about Rossini as if he's some sort of hack who's just putting on the most base instincts on stage, when in reality that contagion is delight and cleverness and just turning conventions on their head. And he can't be Mozart, but he shouldn't be Mozart when he's a perfectly good Rossini.
He's Rossini. He became Rossini.
Yeah.
He opened the door of the 19th century. The 18th century was the age of enlightenment. Music from the celestial spheres. The 19th century was the age of the common humans, the age of the common people bonding together, the age of William Tell. And Mozart had it right with Marriage of Figaro, with Figaro upping the count.
Okay, but let's talk about this, because this is I woke up this morning and this was already in my head. Mozart, Barber of Seville was already a play. Lots of people wrote their Barbers of Sevilles.
Yes.
Mozart wrote Marriage of Figaro, which is the sequel to Barber of Seville.
Yes.
And then Rossini comes along, having experienced Marriage of Figaro, and decides, I'm going to write the original again. But he makes one of the main male protagonists, the Count, into a sympathetic person deserving of love. So how do we navigate Rossini writing the quote unquote, it's very Star Warsian. You have episode right 4, 5, 6, and Rossini comes around and is like, no, here's episode 1, 2, 3. How do we navigate that?
And also,
yes.
Can you explain this fascination with this one story that everyone seemed to have around that time? Why did Mozart, Rossini, all these composers write about this one story? If you could, for those who don't know the story.
My beloved collaborator, Stephen Lawless, should be here. He would give you a more literary and literate, but I definitely will tell you that the Beaumarchais trilogy, the 3 plays Beaumarchais wrote, were the most dangerous plays written, and many people think that they caused the French Revolution.
Wait, Barber of Seville, Marriage of Figaro, and Kyle mentioned it, the widow's mistake or the widow's error or so.
Yes.
A lowly singing barber caused the French Revolution.
The Figaro in the Marriage of Figaro. No, I'm sorry. Yes, the Figaro in the Marriage of Figaro bested his employer.
Right.
You could not do that. That was against all the rules in the 18th century. And I just did the Marriage of Figaro with Stephen Lawless in Palm Beach. And in this dramatic scene, when they're all getting ready for the wedding, the Count is saying, we're going to have a great wedding, and we're going to have fireworks, and we're going to have dancing, and we're going to have a feast. And usually in the production, there's cheers, yay, yay. And in Stephen's production, they all take off their wigs, and they take off their livery, and they don't literally, but they figuratively give the finger to the Count. And that is the beginning of the French Revolution. And the Emperor Joseph was very nervous about having it performed in Vienna. Lorenzo da Ponte had to make all sorts of cuts and adjustments so it was acceptable politically, but everybody knew what it was about. So, by the way, when you come to visit me in New York, which I hope you do, I will take you. We can walk from my home in Sunnyside, Queens. We can walk to Lorenzo da Ponte's grave in New Calvary Cemetery. Yes.
Wow.
And just for more wow, Manuel Garcia, the original count in The Barber of Seville, performed Rossini's Barber of Seville and Mozart's Nozze di Figaro for Lorenzo da Ponte in 1825 in New York City.
Wow. I'm so curious what he must have thought. So you have someone who originated the Rossini role.
Yes.
And then returned to the Mozart role. And you have, in the Mozart, he is a scoundrel. He's the absolute worst. He's doing everything possible to ruin Figaro's chances of happiness. But in the Rossini, he's a loving, caring, potential, at least... So let's do a quick synopsis of Barber of Seville. I think I have it down. You'll have to correct me. The Count is in love and doesn't think he can woo his love. Is it Rosina? Rosina. Does not think he can woo Rosina properly as the Count. There's too many things. There's too many obstacles. And so he dresses up in various disguises throughout the course of the opera, but most importantly as Lindoro. And Figaro agrees to help him because Figaro also wants to figuratively give the finger to Bartolo. Dr. Bartolo. And so it's essentially getting these two lovebirds together, even though Rosina doesn't know exactly who's wooing her the entire time until the very end. Right. And then everybody lives happily ever after because it is, except for Bartolo. Do I have it?
Yes, that's it.
But then we get to Mozart, the sequel.
Yes.
And the Count
A few years later,
and the Count is now running around on Rosina the whole time, and Figaro decides Figaro wants to get married, so he's going to simultaneously get his revenge on the Count for potentially ruining his potential marriage and also expose him for the cad that he is.
Yes.
How do you rectify knowing the Mozart? Or how is Stephen rectifying knowing the Mozart, knowing the Count's character later? Does he have to?
Well, I don't think there's any rectifying. You recounted the story of the Count very beautifully, but there's accountability there. Oh yeah, that was pretty good.
So there's accountability there.
Yes. Because Figaro doesn't do this just out of the goodness of his heart, and he says it clearly. Yeah, I'll help you, but I want to be paid, and I want to be paid big. So I will help you get into Bartolo's house so you can woo Rosina, but I want a lot of money in exchange. So I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do this because I'm ambitious, I'm in the middle class, and I want to keep making sure that I've got a big bank account so that when the time comes, I can become a human. I can have a lifestyle. I can not always be at the beck and call of Figaro qui, Figaro là, Figaro su, Figaro giù. I want my own identity other than as a servant. And the Count, and it's very clear in this staging with Stephen that this Rosina is one of, I think, several infatuations that the Count has had. He's a young prince. We know this from recent history. What do young princes do? They have affairs. Movie stars, actresses, beautiful models, conductors. I don't know who they have affairs with. I won't ask.
They could have anyone.
Yes. And then they settle on someone to marry. And then I hate to tell you wonderful ladies, but men are cads, and I apologize for my sex.
Rossini, there's also, this is one of the reasons why I love the operas that I've seen, because I think there's a reason, one of the reasons why operas are so fun to watch is because every person on stage, there's really almost never a wholly good or wholly bad character in the great operas, right? There's always something that makes them more human. And, you know, like you said, Figaro, it's like, oh yes, he's inherently good, but he's also looking out for number one, and that's Figaro. And Rosina is not necessarily willing to, you know, she agrees to marry Dr. Bartolo at one point because she's not wholly convinced just because someone comes through her window and says pretty things. And that makes it a lot more fun to watch because nothing is quite guaranteed. Do you think that Figaro ambition goes back to what you were saying about the Beauchamp, and then now it's the 19th century and the middle class is saying, I want to live, I want to have joy, I want to have things that make me feel human. Is Figaro kind of the hero of that mentality in his own way?
Absolutely. And I think we have to look at Rossini too. Rossini grew up not in poverty, but in the lower middle class. His mother was a singer who, like many singers, she was a seamstress. And so when she wasn't on the stage, she was making dresses for the upper class. And his father was a trumpeter, so he grew up in a musical family. There was music all around, and clearly he learned singing from his mother, and he learned music, and there's always interesting brass parts. And the Napoleonic Wars were still continuing. Italy was filled with military officers and military bands. So there's always this military rhythm in Rossini's orchestration. There's always dum ba-dum 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 ba-dum, which had kind of vanished in Mozart. Mozart's much more beautiful, smoother, gentler, and Rossini brought it all back. But he was in that lower class, that servant class, that class that served at the behest of the upper class. So I feel somewhere in Rossini there was this sense of identification with his characters, because he certainly knew them. He knew Mozart, of course, struggled all his life for how to make a living. One of my favorite Mozart stories, I mean, almost every musical movement in Nozze di Figaro is a dance. And a friend of Mozart's came to visit them one night and found Mozart and Constanza dancing around the apartment, just dancing, and said, "Oh, you two are so joyful, and isn't it wonderful to see you dancing?" And Mozart said, "We're not dancing because we're happy. We're cold. We can't afford any fuel. We're trying to stay warm." And it's this idea that we dance because we're cold. Beaumarchais said, I laugh, his comedies, I laugh because if I didn't laugh, I would cry.
Oh, I both love and hate that is a very real sentiment that is still very, very present right now. You have two options.
Yes. Dance and laugh, or freeze
and cry. Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's tremendous though.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
That context is so gorgeous. How as you approach the music and you work with directors like Stephen Lawless and you work with your wonderful singers and is it those underlying things that keep opera relevant in 2025? Are those, it's these threads that yes, this was written over 200 years ago, but it doesn't matter because these sentiments are the same?
I don't think people change. I think we're all the same. We're all motivated by, well, the primal emotions, hunger, love, ambition, and then hatred, fear. Fear is a big one. Fear of perishing, fear of not being heard. I think a lot of, but what I have seen from opera stories is, and the successful stories that connect with the audience, is the audience sees themselves in the characters. And we identify, we see ourselves, we see our weaknesses, and we see what we can do. We see, I'm doing Cenerentola now also in Kansas City, and the surtitle of that is The Triumph of Goodness. And what a title, what an opera. And I feel Cinderella and the Barber are brother and sister. Both poor people who are elevated through their own, in Cinderella's case, it's through her generosity and goodness. In Figaro's case, it's through his intelligence, his wit, and his industry. And yet, even he admits he couldn't have done it without Rosina, because she's cleverer than he is. And he says the same thing in Nozze di Figaro.
It's very Shakespeare.
It's very Shakespeare.
Oh, yes. If someone was on the fence about coming to see Barber, what would be your final pitch to them? Like how you could, because opera, like orchestra concerts, I think there's a feeling of, I don't know this becomes scarier for it. But Barber is such the first opera I ever saw was The Italian Girl in Algiers.
Ah, fabulous.
Which is so much fun, and I didn't know opera could be like that either. I didn't realize I could sit there and laugh, and even as I'm reading like super titles and everything. So for Barber, how do you coax people over the edge?
Well, first of all, you can't resist Rossini.
The contagion.
The contagion. You will be infected within 30 seconds of the overture. Because Rossini understands rhythm. And part of Rossini's magic is this repetitive, rhythmic motion, which then Stendhal, his biographer and friend, said that Rossini was lazy, and so he indulged in this indolent repetition. But repetition is an incredible part of successful music. Repetition lulls you into a sense of familiarity. Oh, I know that tune. Oh, I know that beat. Rock music, rap music, it's all got that rhythm, it's got that beat. But then what Rossini does is whack! He surprises you, and he whiplashes you into a new key, into a new rhythm. And so you're continually lulled into a sense of safety, and then you're whiplashed into a new key, a new tempo, a new something. And so it's always exciting, and it is this Rossini crescendo that they talk about. And I feel that's not just in the individual piece, but it's in a kind of GPS way through the whole act. So you start out, oh yeah, oh wow, oh wait a minute, this is a roller coaster, oh wow, this is the big one. And then you come at the very end of the act to the biggest cyclone in Coney Island, and whoa, there you are, bang, at the end of Act One. So when you come to a Rossini opera, when you come to Barber of Seville, you're on for the whole ride. You're not going to be able to leave. And then the people on stage are people you know. You will identify with them. You will know their ambitions and their sorrows. And finally, music is the most primal language we have. The Neanderthals sang before they spoke. Neanderthals could not go to each other and say, hey, I saw some great animals over there, and I think we should go and get some sticks and some stones and try and kill one. They would go, oh, and people would understand. And we have that today when we talk to a baby, or we have a good meal, whoa, or we see something fabulous, it's And Rossini took all of this and expanded it into these incredible vocalises that you'll hear our fabulous cast. Daniela Mack as Rosina, who sings the most incredible coloratura that I've ever heard, and Ming Hao Liu, our Count, Alex Birch Elliott, who I've now done Figaro and a couple of other operas with. They all have this incredible vocal technique, which is just an extension of Neanderthal man sitting down after a wonderful meal of that animal he killed going, but they just had a few more notes. So I think, and then it's funny. It is the funniest libretto. Stephen Lawless is making it the funniest opera imaginable. It really, you will be infected in the best possible way.
Love that. Love
yes.
that. After Barber, if you come to Barber and this is your first opera, what do you recommend? Where does someone go after Barber? Where can they continue the infection?
Well, there are all sorts of different paths, because now we have 400 years of opera and counting. I love that now we seem to have a rebirth of contemporary opera. I mean, it never lost us. Back when I started out, I did operas of Lee Hoybe and Moore and Passettieri, and when I worked at the Santa Fe Opera, they did either a world premiere or an American premiere every year. But what are your tastes? If you like comedies, there's more Rossini. There's Falstaff, the great comedy of Verdi. But I would recommend an opera by Puccini, maybe Bohème. Bohème tells a story of, again, students. And it also, Verismo, tells the story in a kind of, well, this is how much time it takes in real life. This is how much time it takes on the operatic stage. But I warn you, there are comedic moments, but it's also, Puccini is just like Rossini. He's very manipulative. Mm-hmm. So with his musical magic, by the last act, you're going to be crying.
That's a good tissues opera.
Yes, yeah. Yes. So.
Oh, This has been so lovely. Thank you. We just have one more question for you.
Yes, please, anything.
We usually ask a different version of this for our orchestra-based guests, but you apparently have sung operas with or without singers as they have forgotten or not forgotten their part. So if you had the opportunity to be on stage and sing any part without worrying about range, if there was just if I could do that, what's the aria? What's the moment?
Oh, that is the worst question, because I feel the opera conductor must be an empath and must become whoever is on stage singing. So whoever is singing at that moment in the opera, I have to, in some science fiction way, bond with them and become one with them. I have to know when they're breathing, how fast they're breathing. Do they want to go faster? Oh, I see they need to go faster. Okay, they want to go slower and they need more breath here. Okay, I'm going to pause here. Okay, I become those people. So I may look like one person, I may look like Gary, but actually inside me are all these other opera characters moving around. My mother was Swedish, so even though I don't conduct it, I'm very attracted to the Wagnerian repertoire, and I would love a shot at any of those Wagner heroines or heroes, because again, I think that's in my DNA. I mean, just give me a horned helmet and a sword and I'd be up on the stage as quick as possible. But I think the person that I most identify with in opera might be Figaro, because he is eager to help everyone. And not just for the money, as I said before, but because he does want to help. He wants to make things better. You know, he'll make your hair look better. He'll advise you on the latest fashions. I will try and help your singing better. I'll try and find the right tempo for you. This fabulous orchestra here, I will try and make things right for the orchestra. I want to be the servant. I think it's a very foolish conductor who doesn't look at the orchestra and the cast and say, you know so much more than I do about what we're doing. I'm humbled by what you know. You're stuck with me, and I'm going to try and organize all of this intelligence into a very clean, neat way that we can all use your best skills to make a wonderful, exciting project that will star you, not me. I want to disappear. So I think Figaro is like that. He wants to manipulate everybody. He wants to have the ending happy. And then he says at the end, oh yes, I did it all. When all he did was just push the buttons and get everybody to do the right thing. So
this is why collaborative pianists are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
Maestro.
Oh,
it's been a joy.
It's
Thank you
been
so much.
my great pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. My pleasure.
That was beautiful.
Oh,
Thank
you
you.
were so easy. I never knew it started.
Good.